Hey everyone, this is Jen and you're watching BPD Woman. On this channel, you will find positive, reinforcing, modifying behaviors to help you change the maladaptive behaviors that come along with having borderline personality disorder. While I'm not a doctor or a therapist, I am someone who has lived with the disorder. And since being diagnosed over 20 years ago, I have done multiple rounds of DBT, research, group therapy, one-on-one therapy, book therapy. You get it. I'm pretty committed. If you're a family member or friend or just someone interested in positive reinforcing behaviors, there is a playlist for you entitled BPD in the Family. You can check that out in the playlist. I have not done a video in some time. I did a very short video back in August, so this one, it's not going to be heavily edited. It's actually not going to be edited at all, so it's all going to be a stream of consciousness, so here it comes. First of all, regarding my absence, I was involved in a relationship that kind of took up a lot of my time, and it wasn't healthy, and so I'll talk about that a little bit here and there. I've also done some other videos about it, but and then I just kind of fell off my routine, so I put out a short video back in August asking for topics and to rapid fire answer some of those. For the person who asked about BPD and addiction, I will definitely do a video about that. For the person who asked about BPD and motherhood, I can give you my thoughts on that because my mother had BPD, but I can't tell you a lot more beyond that. Dr. Daniel Fox, he just did a video not long ago about the truth about borderline parents, so you may want to check that video out to help you. Wandering Nowhere asked me to talk about friendships, and that is actually on my mind, so we're going to go with that today. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about friendships, friendship purges, real friends versus not real friends, favorite people versus best friends, etc. If you have BPD, likely you have trouble maintaining long-term healthy relationships. I have a few. And I've had some that have lasted 10 years, 12 years. And sometimes those friendships end and it has nothing to do with your BPD. You could have a falling out. Listen, not just people with personality disorders have trouble with relationships, right? That's kind of a universal thing. And I think there are some distinguishing characteristics to think about. So first, just because your relationship ends, it doesn't mean it had to do with your BPD. That person could be a flake. You two just might not be compatible. Maybe your goals have changed. Maybe one of you betrayed the other, right? So there's lots of things, and it's important not to assume all responsibility, although it's easy to go to that, right? Because I don't know about you, but certainly I've heard a lot, oh, well, this is your borderline. It's got to be your border. He agrees. It's got to be your borderline. And it's not always your borderline. So that's the first thing to think of. If you have BPD, though, your ability to maintain friendships might be affected by your black and white thinking, right? Your lack of object constancy, your inability to trust people, and finally, that you probably didn't have good role models to show you or nurture what those healthy friendships and relationships should look like. If you're me, you had a narcissistic father and a borderline mother. Which means there's a lot of turmoil in the house, which means a lot of kids didn't come over to your house, which means you were too upset and just trying to survive in your household growing up. Maybe you were being abused. So you didn't have a lot of time to think about friends. You were just busy trying to survive. And being emotionally dysregulated is something else that can contribute, right? So if you get really upset, if you feel maybe someone's betrayed you, or they're not listening to you, or they're not putting in what you're putting in, you may be like, that's it, I'm done, right? A common thing, it's the steps in how to combat those things are relatively straightforward and easy. Enacting them is a little bit harder. And those tips are, one, diversifying your group of friends, right? 2, learning how to make friends and keep friends and be a good friend. 3, when you find yourself fixating on a favorite person, to kind of pull back and direct your attention elsewhere. 4, not acting on that emotion, right? If you think that they are ignoring you, right? Or betraying you, or whatever, you need to sit on that and check the facts, right? You don't want to make an assumption on something, act on it, and then by your own actions, you've ended the friendship, which was your abandonment fear in the first place. 5 is, knowing that fear of abandonment is built in to our psyche. Why? Because we were fucking abandoned a lot, guys. So, yeah, it's kind of, the people that were supposed to be stable forces in our life, they weren't. So, yeah, it makes sense that you feel a sense of abandonment in your life. And if you are like me, you kind of feel like you're unanchored to any person or anything. I think that's where some of that identity and loneliness comes from. And, the splitting, not everything is black and white. It's just not, right? And it's easy to think that way because people hurt us a lot. You were probably in a lot of trauma, and so it was growing up, or maybe even into your early adulthood, and so it's easier to say, this is hurting me, I gotta cut this off, this is too much for me to handle, right? I liken having BPD and this emotional sensitivity to emotional fibromyalgia, right? It's hurt, it's painful, you want it to stop, so it's easier to be like, this is good or this is bad, and I can't handle it if it's bad. The other thing to consider here is that, you didn't have a lot of good role models, right? If you were brought up in a really stable environment, you probably wouldn't have a personality disorder, and a lot of these issues that we talk about wouldn't be going on for you. In my case, I really want friends, and if you glom on to a favorite person, it's probably because it's not that you only want that one friend, it's that you're just, oh God, thank God I have a friend, right? Like, I've got this one friend and woohoo, I am understood, I can be normal. But what happens is, at least in my case, yes, the splitting and the emotional dysregulation and the anger definitely contribute to the end of some friendships, but also I don't know that I know how to build them very well, and 2, I don't think I have a good picker. I think maybe, out of every 10 people, maybe I'm picking 1 or 2 people that are really worth my time. And that's good. It's good to be discerning, and it's good to have standards. But, obviously you don't want that to swing in the other direction, or no one's good enough, right? I think probably we've all met or know that person in our life that, nobody's good enough for them. And you have this deep sense of loneliness, at least I do. And, I always want to be a part of that Christmas dinner with the family, and I always want to have all the friends and go, Halloween's coming up, and I want to go on a hayride, I want to carve pumpkins and all this other stuff. And, it's important to remember that not everything is qualifiable as a friend. You've got your work colleagues, you've got your neighbors, you've got your acquaintances and your associates, and then you have your deep friendships, right? And I think friendships, however you define that, and you should have a definition of what that means to you, friends get a higher level of trust, higher level of commitment, you're more loyal, there's a whole bunch of things that go on with that. But if you have all of these factors against you, the dysregulation, the not having a good pattern set to develop a friendship, if you don't have a good picker, right? Because if you grew up in a narcissistic or a borderline home, chances are you're probably picking relationships now that mirror what you're used to. I have. And I think, I try to be a really good friend, am I loyal? Am I committed? Am I there for my friend? Do I comfort my friend? Do I help my friend out in times of need? Do I do fun things? Do I initiate? Do I text? Yes, I would say that yes, I do all of that stuff. And recently I had to let go of a few friendships, and not in any big dramatic fashion, because you know what? I feel like they were fake ass friends. And I'm just talking about two people and pretty surface level. And, of one friend who was like, lives in my building, and lives in my building, and we would go on walks and stuff, but like couldn't ever make time for me to do anything beyond the scope of our building. That may just even be a situational friend. Someone who I found talked more about themselves than was interested in me. Or maybe I might say something upsetting and they would drop off text or ignore my texts. Another girlfriend of mine, we made plans and she blew me off very short notice to go out with some guy who had stood her up that she's never even met before. And, when you're thinking about ending a friendship or keeping and nurturing a friendship, you want to pay attention to patterns, right? And patterns are a good way to make sure that you're not splitting, right? You want to look at patterns and make decisions when you're in a regulated state of mind. And for me, when I got blown off, for the one person, it was not even worth having a discussion about. I just simply blocked the number and I'm like, I'm done, right? You've hurt me. This is the last time you're going to hurt me. We made plans. You blew me off. That's not a friend. If someone's constantly blowing you off, not returning texts, you initiate all of the time, they maybe badmouth other of their friends, they're probably going to do that about you at some point. So pay attention to that. Is that making you feel equal? And the other person, she'll remain in my life because she started off as a client, but I'm just not trying anymore, guys. Like, just because I have BPD or I feel a sense of loneliness, I have learned over the years that it might be lonely for a while. I may not see any alerts pop up in my messages app on my phone, but I'm a lot happier than when I'm dealing with people that I'm chasing or that I don't think are giving me enough and constantly worrying about the imbalance of the friendship. And that's an easy trap to fall into, especially if you have a sense of loneliness, sense of abandonment, easily dysregulated, and you don't feel worthy of friends. Okay, well, you are worthy of friends. If you are engaging in behaviors that have become a part of your routine and they're maladaptive, okay, work on that, work on trying to change that. But that doesn't mean that all of, these problems are because of your borderline. If you are quick to cut somebody off without seeing a pattern, work on that. Okay, try observing more patterns over a longer period of time. If you think you're ready to ditch your friend after 2 weeks, wait another 2 weeks. See the patterns. Maybe you just had it wrong. Check those facts, right? Make decisions when you're regulated. And diversify your group. I've joined Meetup and I've been a member of Meetup for 5 years, but I've probably gone to like 2 events in that whole time. So, I think I have to put myself out there. And that can be hard. Remember, you're not going to like meet friends sitting from a chair, right? You have to go out, do things, and diversify the groups, right? Maybe you will find friends at work. Maybe you will find friends in your neighborhood. But, you're going to have to go join a club or you're going to have to go on vacation, right? You're going to have to meet other folks in other places. It's tough. It's really tough. And, you should remember, like, this idea that everyone has friends and they're friends from kindergarten to death is just not, I don't know many people like that. I don't, and statistically, it says you change friendship groups every 7 years anyway. That's hard. Especially when you want a sense of being anchored. When you have BPD, part of that is I want roots, I want friends, I want a family, I want a house, I want all of this, right? And so you're probably more likely to make concessions where you otherwise weren't. And I get it. And for some of us, myself included, you don't have a family to fall back on. So that increases the sense of sometimes urgency and loneliness that comes with not having a big group of friends. But you know what? You have to also be comfortable with your own company. And I would encourage you, read more articles about friendships. Read articles about how to be a good friend. Do a quiz. Am I a good friend? See if you are. If you're not, maybe work on some things. But remember that not everything's tied to your BPD, and it's more important to wait and choose quality over quantity. And sometimes that means you're going to spend a while by yourself. Catch up on those movies, catch up on your sleep, get a dog, whatever. That's what I do. Leave me your comments, questions below. It's nice to be back. I will do more of your video requests. I haven't forgotten them. They're still popping in my inbox, so thank you. And share below your comments about friendship, and what it's been like to have had BPD or been someone who's had a friend or a loved one with BPD. I'm interested to hear your experience, and also someone else may also find that very helpful. Until I see you next time, in everything you do, be effective.